One of the activities that I've been assigned to in the last year is to answer some quarterly questions for a Buddhist magazine out of Malaysia called Eastern Horizon. And it's primarily focused for young people in the Theravadan tradition, but they have a forum where they invite someone from the Tibetan tradition, someone from the Chinese tradition, and someone from the Theravadan tradition to answer a series of questions. And what's interesting is the first set of questions that I answered last January was on AI, which I knew very little about, so I had to do a lot of research. And then the second set of questions was all about the Vinaya, which was lovely, and I drew a lot of information from Venerable and Venerable's books. But lo and behold, this next set of questions that will be published in January is again about AI. So I'm not sure what the deal is, if the publisher himself is really into this, or if the population there in Malaysia is really absorbed into AI. You think that's what it is. So and of course, it's an impossible task because I have 8 questions and 1,000 words to answer about AI. So I thought just to share some of the things that I've been working on, because I think the community has been wondering, why are you spending so long working on these questions? So I'm going to read a lot of it because I don't have it memorized, but just to share some of the things that I've been, and actually it's been fascinating research, but I tell you, I'm not as enamored with AI as many people. Okay, so the first question was, what are your views on the role of AI in shaping human consciousness and behavior? In 120 words or less. So that's a pretty big question. So I said artificial intelligence in all its forms is touted as having seemingly unlimited potential to benefit humanity in so many areas like education, healthcare, business, research, science, transportation, education, basically across the board. There's so many uses for it. Yet just as we couldn't have imagined how computers would have changed the world, I think the same is true of AI. We have no idea at this point. In fact, the people who invented AI have no idea at this point. It's like they're building something and they're looking for applications. And the interesting thing is that AI is not just another, AI meaning artificial intelligence, is not just another invention, it's an infinite inventor itself in a lot of respects. Because using programmed algorithms, they interact with new data and they produce complicated neural networks that are similar to what human minds do. But it's not sentient, don't worry, it's not sentient, even though some people, well, how can a computer become sentient from a Buddhist point of view? So anyway, it's executing these functions that even the programmers don't understand, but it takes new set of data and it's learning. Some programs are learning all the time. So as soon as they learn one program with a certain set of data, then they become smarter and then they know how to answer. But don't be completely dismayed by that. They still have a lot of limitations. So millions of people are using AI interfaces already, like large language models that probably many of you are familiar with. Is it AI that functions or powers Google and searches like that? Now you get a blurb that's AI generated with the searches. So these large language models are very popular for creating original text and poetry even, summarizing large amounts of text and creating computer programs, doing programming. AI image generators are very interesting, and probably you've seen some of those images. They can produce artistic quality results from a wide range of text prompts. So just by saying to the program, create something and make it a little more happy, and all of a sudden it changes things, or give it a Buddhist twist and see what it comes up with. So interesting things to play with. Artificially intelligent robots serve as elder care companions already and tutors for children. I saw an interview with Bill Gates, and he wants to have an AI robot for every child in America to help them with their studies. I don't know. Even Venerable Rinchen shared an article with me from MIT magazine or publication that shows that even the best performing large language models don't have a coherent understanding of the world and its rules and still fail in unexpected ways. So I read something about there was for cars, the auto-driving cars, self-driving cars, they have maps installed in them, and they work beautifully as long as nothing goes wrong. But as soon as a street is closed, or there's construction, or somehow it has to go somewhere else, it starts creating, it makes things up. It just makes up roads and connections, and like, how's that gonna work? So do we really want AI to supersede human creativity and language skills? Think about all the skills we're gonna start losing because we're letting AI answer our emails for us and make it nicer sounding. We're gonna lose that skill, being compassionate people, if we're not careful. At what cost do we rely on robots for emotional support? I saw this one thing, I don't know if it's a robot, but it's a machine that you can buy. It had this older woman sitting having a conversation with it. And there were all these functions that it could perform, like it could have a conversation, you could play a card game with it. I forget what all the functions were. But these things are already, if you look on Amazon, there are already all these amazing robots that you can buy. They're already out there. Yeah, do we want to rely on robots for emotional support or children's character development? Can a robot really help a child develop their character and all their good qualities? I have my doubts. Some say IA will replace countless jobs, others say it will create countless jobs, so we don't know. But don't forget that AI uses an exponential amount of energy. This is something you don't hear a lot about. But I heard that one of the large tech companies, actually we had a fellow here from Google recently, and he said one of the large tech companies bought a nuclear plant on the East Coast. Oh, you've read about this. I hadn't heard about it. So that they could power their AI. Yeah, as if we don't have enough energy problems already. So let's not overestimate AI. It's meant to augment far greater human productivity and agency, but it's not a panacea for samsara, is it? Keep that in mind. A Google tech friend, this fellow who was here, he said, you have to be an expert to know if AI is correct or not. It's predictive, so it tells us what we want to hear, like an echo chamber. AI is good for assisting experts who can tell when it's hallucinating, and it does a lot. It's not trustworthy for making important decisions, so use it when you can accept errors. I thought that was very wise counsel. So AI has unprecedented potential to shape all aspects of our lives and our behavior. And in fact, one of the TED Talks I watched, this fellow was saying that pretty soon every building will have an AI interface, every company will have an AI interface. We will be interacting, we already are to some degree, interacting with artificial intelligence. The next question was, what advice would you give to individuals who want to cultivate wisdom and compassion while balancing the demands of their professional and digital lives? We want it all, don't we? So I was writing, and this Venerable was talking about this last night, that we need to be very clear about our values and the principles that we want to live by. That way, we can start our day with, for instance, the 3 motivations that we start with. Today, as much as possible, may I benefit, may I not harm myself or others with my body, speech, and mind. May I benefit others as much as possible. And doing those things with the support, the influence of our bodhicitta and bodhicitta aspirations, as well as some awareness of dependent arising and emptiness. And then at the end of each day, we can check if we've acted within our integrity. We can rejoice where we're successful. We can purify any mistakes, and that way our compassion and our wisdom keep growing. So I didn't answer this in terms of AI. I just said, as Buddhists, our aim is in our life is to transform our minds and actions to overcome dukkha and its causes. AI can't do that for us. No matter how much AI can tell us about compassion, that's a very different it's going to have a very different impact on us than sitting with someone like a developed teacher or highly developed practitioner who actually embodies compassion. That kind of juiciness of being in the room and hearing live teachings, you're not going to get from an AI robot or an AI program. Yeah. So I said to transform our minds and actions to overcome dukkha and its causes, then we need to ask ourselves, how deeply have I taken on the Buddha's teachings on karma? How deeply have I taken them to heart so that they begin influencing my actions? Do we look for opportunities for more generosity? Are we less likely to retaliate when we're harmed? So, really encouraging people to meditate daily. AI is not going to replace the hard work that each of us need to do to transform our minds and hearts. And I'm surprised how many times I came across people or articles saying, one day AI will be conscious. Give me a break. It's not like that. I mean, the Dalai Lama was asked one time, can a robot become conscious? And he was very careful the way he gave his result. He said, I suppose if it were possible that a robot could have all the causes and conditions necessary to support consciousness. That's very different than saying AI becomes conscious. I mean, a robot, just like maybe, there are stories about consciousnesses entering trees. So in a similar way, AI could inhabit a robot body if all the causes and conditions were there. But that's very different than saying that a material program is going to become conscious or even enlightened. There are people who are waiting for the next enlightened AI. I wouldn't hold my breath. So these are just a couple of the questions out of the 8 that I was trying to succinctly package into. I still need to cut about 500 words, so but it's hard to really condense it and synthesize it. I did not succumb to the temptation to let AI do that for me. Because actually you can tell if you've used AI. I was talking with some of the kids that were here the other day, and I was asking them, how are you using AI? And they were talking about it, and they said, yeah, but if we use it for our homework, our teachers have ways of telling if we're using AI. So that's good. That's a good thing, I think. So it's very limited. And, it's just like the next shiny new thing. I was talking with Joe Monahan, who's worked in tech for a long time, and he said, already in a way, it's already, the bubble is already burst. And he was saying that some of the Gen Alpha, the younger kids, are already looking at their parents who are just scrolling addicted, and they maybe have some, what they call, techos call them brain rot, where your mind is just so dull because it's just scrolling, looking for the next dopamine hit. And they're turning away from it, saying, we don't want to do that. We don't want to spend our lives doing that. So that's hopeful, I think. But of course, there are going to be some fantastic benefits to using AI for solving some of our problems. But it's not a panacea, and it's not a replacement for the hard work that each of us have to do on our own minds and hearts.
This pertains to what you said. His Holiness was once asked if a computer could become conscious, and his response was, if somebody created the cause to be born in a computer, then, the computer. So you have to create the karma to be born in the computer. So I wonder sometimes if some of these techie people, because they're so interested in computers being conscious or robots, being conscious. Maybe they're the ones,
Yeah.
dedicating their merit to be born in that kind of body.
One of the first developers who was working with robots thought that his robot had become conscious, and he wrote to the executives of his company and said this robot has become conscious. We need to announce this to the world. And they immediately locked him out of all the internet facilities of their company and got him some counseling. But there are a lot of people who are wondering about that. And if you look online, you'll see some interesting YouTube clips of like this robot called Sophia. I think that's her name, Sophie or Sophia. We do tend to project humanistic qualities onto things that they're created to look humanoid, but they're just a machine. Yeah, so it's tricky. It's a trick for our mind. Okay.